Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to Bryar Rose. Let's continue right where we left off. They've just gotten rid of the pixies in the kitchen. For a long minute, I sit quietly at the table and try to soak in everything that happened. The Colonel and I just forced hundreds of pixies out of my kitchen and back to Fairylands. Now, he's sitting at the table and enjoying a meal of cashew chicken. Plus, we're about to have a talk. Let's not forget about that. The last time we had one of our talks, the Colonel told me I was a rare kind of magicorum called a trollorum, meaning that I could wield all three types of magic. Then I asked why I'd never heard of the trollorum before. The Colonel informed me that all other trollorum had been killed long ago. Surprisingly, they weren't murdered by Jules, the egomaniac who wanted my brains for dinner. Nope. All the trollorum had been killed by enterprising and yet incredibly evil witches and warlocks. It seems that, combined with a spell or two, dried out trollorum livers fix any ailment. Ew. Needless to say, that was an unfun conversation. I eye the exit archway to the living room. Maybe there's somewhere to get out of this chat before I learn something else that's both disturbing and disgusting. The Colonel dabs the corner of his mouth with his handkerchief. You'll never guess who I ran into the other day. Queen Nixa? No, not that old hag. In a ball gown. Reggie. On reflex, I pull on my ear. I must be mishearing things. Reggie? That's what I said. You mean Reggie? The guy who was alive with Julius Caesar? Who then got made into an evil Denari mummy zombie? Who was then captured by Nox, lived in Alec's basement, and just escaped over the summer? The last Denari alive? That Reggie? That's the one. He sends his regards. Reggie is crazy, as a bedbug, but he's very concerned about the fountain of magic. I tilt my head, considering. That's rather sane of him. Folks like you and me, we aren't alive solely because of magic. But Reggie, why, his every breath is thanks to magical energy. Is rather concerned that it stays safe and active. Why? Is something threatening the fountain of magic? That's what I'm here to find out. I frown. Last time you visited, you were heading off to Fairylands. I thought you were staying there for a while. Yes, I got a little detoured, but don't you worry. The Fae are still expecting me. Seems I'm the only one who can stop the Fairylands from going to war. War? Is there an echo in here? The Colonel winks. Somehow the guy managed to be smooth, sarcastic, and hospitable, all at the same time. Why, yes, war. But after I talked to sweet Reggie, I decided to stop by here and see you. He points at me with his chopsticks, and at great time and expense, I might add. Thank you, I think. Reggie told me you recently came by some papri that concerned the equinox and first wardens. Yes, I was just looking at those sheets. They say the equinox is important. This year's autumn equinox is in 5 days. The Colonel's silver gaze turns intense, and, according to the papri, the fountain of magic is supposed to give its bounty next week, right at the equinox. That will be the first time the fountain has gone off in 5,000 years. That's right. The Colonel sets aside his box of chicken. Have you been getting any bad dreams, sugar? I stare at my hands. Thinking about my nightmares feels way too personal for a chat with the Colonel. I've always had dreams of ancient Egypt and papri. Nox is in them, too. That's not what I meant. I'm talking nightmares. The Colonel leans forward. You have been having them, haven't you? There's no point lying to the Colonel. He can always tell when I try. How did you know? Tell me about them. The Colonel sets his palms flat on the tabletop. Every line of his body tells me that the way I answer this question is critical. I don't remember a thing about them. That's very good. Whatever answer the Colonel was looking for, it seems I gave the right one. Very good indeed. No, it's pretty frightening. I hate waking up terrified without knowing why. And I believe you, sugar. The Colonel picks up his chopsticks once more, then circles them by his ear in the motion for I'm nuts. Don't pay me no mind. You know how we Fae are. I do. And Fae are tricky. I drum my fingers on the tabletop. The Colonel is hiding something. I know it. My mind sifts through everything he said until I hit on one particular item. You mentioned something about first wardens before. What did you mean? I've never heard of them. First wardens. The Colonel stuffs an enormous amount of cashew chicken in his mouth, then motions across his lips with his chopsticks. It's a signal that means I can't talk now. He's stalling. It won't work. I fold my arms over my chest. I can wait. The Colonel finally swallows his megabite of chicken and coughs. Can you get me a glass of water, honey? If I get it for you, will you answer my question? The Colonel smacks his lips. You'll never let this drop, will you? Always so willful. Always so willful. I've had less than 10 conversations with you my entire life. How do you know what I am? 10 conversations. Is that so? The Colonel chuckles. Oh, I know plenty about you, honey. Now get me the water, and I'll tell you all about the first wardens. I stomp over to the sink, fill up a glass, and hand it over. The stomping part is a little childish, but I'm 17. I figure I'm allowed. So, I set the glass down before him. The first wardens. The Colonel takes a long sip. Well, when magic first came into the world, it was a doggone mess. Shifter, Fae, witch power, they all got mixed up. No one knew how to do anything. So they were Trellorum. Yes and no. The magic inside you, it's still in 3 separate groups of threads, as it were. Back then, magic was worse than the junk drawer you and Ella keep stuffing wire into. I lift my chin. We're hackers. You never know when something will come in handy. I slide back onto my chair. But I get what you mean. Magic was a total mess. Just so. And it stayed that way until the first wardens. They built the first tools to separate our magic. That was pyramids, you know. You mean the ones in Egypt? No, South America. The Colonel waves his hand dismissively. Sadly, those ancient pyramids are long gone, so don't bother looking for them on a map. He goes back to eating dinner. I give the Colonel all but 2 bites before I prompt him to start back up again. So, the first wardens used the pyramids to focus magic into Shifter Fae and Warlock. Then what happened? For thousands of years it all worked out fine. After that, everything changed. We don't know why, but the first wardens decided they needed to destroy magic. Destroy magic? How's that possible? Well, it wasn't possible as it turns out. Their plan backfired. The first wardens only ended up blowing up the fountain and the pyramids as well. That's terrible. Closing my eyes, I try to picture the reason why any people would want to destroy magic, and nothing comes to mind. Why would the first wardens want to wipe out magic? The Colonel shrugs. I can't say, meaning you don't know. I say slowly, or you do know, but you won't tell me. The Colonel gives me the side eye. You gonna let me finish my story here? Now when the Colonel cracks out is, you gonna let me finish my storyline, then there's no point pushing him any further. He'll say what he wants and that's it. I'm listening. Well, there was a second set of wardens, continues the Colonel. They called themselves the Luxalta. They designed the pyramids in Egypt and tried to revive the fountain. They were hoping they wouldn't have to wait 5,000 years for the fountain to give its bounty. Their spells didn't work, at least not when it came to bringing back the fountain. Other things they tried were successful, though. In fact, they cast the spells that put those glyphs on your wereboy's back. His name is Knox. The Colonel is forever calling my mate wereboy. For some reason, the Colonel believes that there's no guy in the universe good enough for me. Forgetting Knox's name is his way of saying that. For someone who put me under a curse, the Colonel can be oddly protective. Knox, repeats the Colonel. Is that his name now? At this point, I remind the Colonel that I've told him Knox's name about 400 times. Sadly, that would just derail the Colonel away from telling me more about the first wardens. Let's not talk about Knox right now. I force a smile. I really want to hear the rest of your story. If you insist. Well, them Luxalta wardens tried to get the whole pyramid set up to work like it did with the first wardens. After all, the fountain begins to give bounty every 5,000 years. There was a chance it could begin again, even after that catastrophe of the first wardens trying to destroy magic. Even so, the Luxalta wardens never did find the old fountain, let alone start it up again. I rub my neck, my eyes lost in thought. The old fountain, or was it a geyser that appeared between the three pyramids in South America? You could say that, which is Colonel's way of saying that I'm partially right. The Fae will never lie. That said, they find a ton of loopholes to avoid the truth. For some reason, the Colonel is holding back on me with the whole Warden story. It could be that he has an ulterior motive. It could also be that he just likes toying with mortals. When it comes to the Fae, you never know. I shift my weight on my seat. Let me ask you another way. The Luxalta wardens worked with the pyramids in ancient Egypt. True enough. Were they trying to get a geyser to show up between the pyramids? The Colonel purses his lips. You could say that. Let's get one thing straight between us. Using my pointer middle fingers, I gesture between the Colonel's eyes and mine. These are non-answer questions. You're holding out on me, and I know it. Of course you know it. You're a sweet girl, and you're very, very clever. He wags his chopsticks in the air. Now, where was I? Once again, I'm back to the truth that Colonel Mallory won't say anything that he doesn't want to, so I decide to simply answer his question. You were saying that the Luxalta wardens couldn't get the pyramids in Egypt to start up the fountain. Yes, that was it. The Colonel stares at me for a long moment. I know this look of his very well. The Colonel's debating whether or not to tell me something. At length, he drops his chopsticks on the table. And that's the end of my story. Afraid I must be going. You can't mean that. The Fae are going to war. I have my duties. It'll only be a day or two until I return. You'll be fine for that long. You always say you return in a few days, and it always takes you weeks and months. If I could stay, believe me, I would. But I've got a war to deal with. Besides, Reggie will watch over you until I'm back. That psychopath, brain-eating mummy zombie. That's the one. He's smarter than he looks, or acts. Just trust me. I open my mouth, ready to explain the dozen or so reasons why the Colonel's plan to leave me with that Reggie is a loser. But before I can get a single word, the Colonel raises his arms. Instantly the kitchen fills with thick haze of fairy dust. A moment later, the silver cloud of Fae power is gone. The Colonel has disappeared. I cup my hand by my mouth. Colonel, I know you can hear me. Get back to the kitchen and finish our talk. I know you're holding out on me. Instead of a reply from the Colonel, I hear raised voices echoing in the living room. I set my hand on my throat. Ella! In all excitement, I had completely forgotten about Alec and my best friend. The Colonel had cast a protection spell to keep the pixies in the kitchen, but his magic had also fallen apart. What if some of those evil green buggers broke through? Tempting as it is to keep yelling for the Colonel, I simply must find out if Ella's okay. I rush off to the living room and find Ella and Alec seated on the couch with their backs to me. The two are still playing their game. Is everything all right? I ask. Absolutely not, says Ella. My chest constricts with worry. What's wrong? This loser right here. Ella glares at Alec. He went into a battle again without taking any healing potions to recover from his last fight. Oh, potions. I let out a long breath. Is that what she's worried about? Then everything is totally fine. The whole potion thing is an ongoing fight between these two. By the way, Alec hoards healing potions. He has like 500 at a time and he refuses to use any of them. I don't blame Ella for getting irritated. She has to cast healing spells on his hoarding boot. Did I mention that it's lovely to be worrying about things like video games instead of lying old Faye was in my kitchen? It is. Alex shoots a quick glance my way. How's our Knox? Good. Out for a run. Ah, so T must have called again. Alec winces while still focused on the screen. He's really into this game. Yeah, she called all right, I say. Knox chucked another phone against the wall. No worries, says Alex. I'll redo the block of spells when he gets his new cell. At the mention of that particular item, I remember my promise to Knox. Ella, mind if I borrow your phone? Which one? Official, anonymous, or burner? As a con artist, Ella has a variety of phones for different occasions. She does it all for a good cause, though. Ella specialises in returning stolen jewellery to its original owner. For a fee, of course. Your official one, please, I say. That's the one with Knox's number. Sure, it's on the coffee table. I scoop up the phone in question, drop it in my pocket. I'll leave you to it then. Their only reply is more clicking of keyboards and complaining about healing potions, so I head back to the kitchen. After all, I never did get my dinner. I stuff myself with plenty of egg rolls and then head off for bed. All the while, my mind spins through everything that happened today. T's call, Knox's pain, the Colonel's non-story stories. Finally, I decide to get into bed and at least try to snooze. I slide under the covers and text Knox with my latest super secure chat app. Only call me Ella. It's Bry. Hope you have a great run. See you in the morning. He texts back right away, which makes me smile. Fort me. Just arrived at Eden Racks and about to shift. Sleep well, my mate. At those words, my grin grows wider. It definitely helps to know that Knox is safe and happy. Sadly, the moment my head hits the pillow, any thoughts of Knox get buried under an avalanche of worries. Jules, the Colonel, Ella, school, my lack of parents. It takes a while. But I eventually fall to sleep. My dreams start off as a little weird, but not especially frightening. Something in my soul tells me that won't last for long, though. And that's the next part of Bryar Rose. You know, I'm beginning to wonder if Colonel Mallory's not her father. What do you think of that idea, guys? Could the Colonel be a dad? I mean, if the Colonel's a dad, right, he's Fae and he's Shifter, and Mum could have been a witch. Then she would have all the 3 types of magic in her, right? But he's a dragon shifter, so how could she become a werewolf shifter? That's the only thing that puts me off thinking that he's a dad, because he's a dragon and she's a were, and that seems highly unlikely. But he seems to be quite protective over her, which is almost like a family thing. That's why I thought he might have been a dad. Maybe he just knew a dad. There's definitely something there. I'm just not sure what it is yet. Thank you for listening to this episode, and many blessings.